more counselors, okay, you know, and then we open up another can of worms. I'm about to get to the elephant in the room, just bear with me, okay? Ada doesn't have the same problems as Poto or Woodward, okay, or Thackerville, okay? I mean, we're talking about everybody's got a unique set of problems, a unique, possibly demographic, or, you know, we've got a border that's wide open to kids that have no idea how to speak English, but yet they're guaranteed a public school education. Does that harm the schools? Well, it kind of creates a bell curve situation because you can't teach all these kids at the same rate or the same speed. So you know, somewhere, you know, you end up with a bunch of people in the middle or in the lower end because of requirements. So now the elephant in the room. How much are we spending on this bureaucratic nightmare of school system? Why do we have so many school districts? You know, it may be the best thing we could do. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying there's got to be a better way. And doing it the same way every year is not working for Oklahoma. At least it hasn't for a number of years. Thank you.
Thank you. Two solutions, or two problems, the two biggest problems that I see. Number one, parent involvement or guardian involvement. Until we address the problem of every student having someone at home that cares about if they're fed, if they're clothed, if they're getting fed, and if they are involved in their students' learning, then we can do whatever we want to do, and we're not going to make the significant strides that we want in our outcomes. That's the main issue. That's the main issue. We have to have a parent or guardian at home that cares about their students' education. You know, when 33 years as an educator, here's kind of what I saw. As long as that was happening at home, 8 out of 10 of those kids were being successful, right? And if that wasn't going on at home, about 2 of 10 were going to be successful at their education. And so parental involvement or guardian involvement, it plays a huge part of getting the kids where we need to have them and getting them educated and getting them where we want them to have the outcomes, of course, that we want all of our children to be a success in life. The other thing, I think we have to address the teacher shortage. When we have shortages in all areas, teachers, engineers, nurses, I mean, we have shortages all the way down the line. But we need to address that teacher shortage, and we've done that in my 6 years there, and in Senator McCortney's 8 years. We've done some things to address those. We put new dollars into our public education to give our schools and our teachers the resources that they need. We've raised teacher salaries over the last 6 years as well. We passed what's called the Inspire to Teach Act, which gives students that go to college to become teachers some financial support while they're getting their education. And then after that, as long as they teach 5 years in our public schools. So that, and we have seen an increase in our teacher ed students all across our teacher colleges. We've passed maternity leave as well for teachers. But we just have to guarantee that we have a qualified teacher in every classroom, a qualified teacher. And to address the teacher shortages, quite frankly, we had dummied that down a little bit, and I don't know that that's the right direction to go. But here's the other thing. Until teachers feel supported and respected, we're going to continue to have a teacher shortage, and they're going to continue to drop out of the profession. Now, how do we address that? Like Mr. Burch said, it goes back to home, right? The parents have to support the teachers, and I think that support has to come all the way from the top. From our state superintendent, our state school board, our legislature, the governor, right on down to our local school boards, to our local administration. And so we have to address that to make sure that we're supporting our teachers to help with the teacher shortage. So, parental involvement and the teacher, our teacher shortage. Two things that we need to address. Thank you.
Okay, next question. The average person is facing rising inflation and is having a hard time making ends meet. What can the legislature do to address this problem?
For the last year or so, I've been chairman of the Republican Party of Pontotoc County, and had a lot to do with me getting into this spot I'm in tonight, because it was always saying somebody needs to do something, okay? And these guys know it's not easy, all right? I mean, to put yourself out there. But, and especially with some of the crazy things that I come up with. But one of the issues we're having in Oklahoma with rising inflation is not because Oklahoma's printing money. Y'all know how inflation works, all right? We've got a federal government that's out of control, okay? We've also got a 10th Amendment that says no, that says you can't keep giving all our money to foreign countries to fight a never-ending war. You can't keep funneling all our money to 750 military bases around the world, for what reason? To be the world's police. What I'm talking about isn't particularly impacting the person that can't pay their bills, yet it is, all right, because they can't buy anything with their money. The Federal Reserve, the federal government, the unaudited federal government is taking advantage of the hardworking people of Oklahoma and Texas and wherever, okay? Here's the bottom line. Taxes are an expense to most people, unless you're in government, okay? So, first, I think we address the cause and stop printing money, okay? And reduce the inflation before we're in Venezuela or Cuba or whatever. Okay, we get out of the world police business and we focus on America. Okay, I've had several people say to me in the last few weeks, they don't know how they're going to pay their property taxes again, or they're still owing property taxes this year. And they're giving more money to these people that are crossing the border than my property taxes. I say, that ain't right, okay? I mean, the hillbilly's gonna come out of me in a minute, but, it's like, that's stupid. We need to take care of our own, okay? And we have citizens in this country for a reason, and we're supposed to have borders for a reason. By the way, that border's been there since 1848, hadn't changed an inch. and nothing's been done about it. I'm talking about Texas and Mexico. So, one thing we do to address it is reduce the size of the government. The government does not need as much as it's taking, okay? You know, let's rein it in, okay? I'm not gonna get into alphabet groups, more alphabet agencies, more counselors, okay? You know, and then we open up another can of worms. I'm about to get to the elephant in the room, just bear with me, okay? Ada doesn't have the same problems as Poto or Woodward, okay, or Thackerville, okay? I mean, we're talking about everybody's got a unique set of problems, a unique, possibly demographic, or, you know, we've got a border that's wide open to kids that have no idea how to speak English, but yet they're guaranteed a public school education. Does that harm the schools? Well, it kind of creates a bell curve situation, because you can't teach all these kids at the same rate or the same speed, so you know, some are, you know, you end up with a bunch of people in the middle or in the lower end because of requirements. So now the elephant in the room. How much are we spending on this bureaucratic nightmare of school system? Why do we have so many school districts? You know, it may be the best thing we could do. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying there's got to be a better way. And doing it the same way every year is not working for Oklahoma. At least it hasn't for a number of years. Thank you.
Thank you. Two solutions, or two problems, the two biggest problems that I see. Number one, parent involvement or guardian involvement. Until we address the problem of every student having someone at home that cares about if they're fed, if they're clothed, if they're getting fed, and if they are involved in their students' learning, then we can do whatever we want to do, and we're not going to make the significant strides that we want in our outcomes. That's the main issue. That's the main issue. We have to have a parent or guardian at home that cares about their students' education. You know, when 33 years as an educator, here's kind of what I saw. As long as that was happening at home, 8 out of 10 of those kids were being successful, right? And if that wasn't going on at home, about 2 of 10 were going to be successful at their education. And so parental involvement or guardian involvement, it plays a huge part of getting the kids where we need to have them, and getting them educated, and getting them where we want them to have the outcomes, of course, that we want all of our children to be a success in life. The other thing, I think we have to address the teacher shortage. When we have shortages in all areas, teachers, engineers, nurses, I mean, we have shortages all the way down the line. But we need to address that teacher shortage, and we've done that in my 6 years there, and in Senator McCortney's 8 years. We've done some things to address those. We put new dollars into our public education to give our schools and our teachers the resources that they need. We've raised teacher salaries over the last 6 years as well. We passed what's called the Inspire to Teach Act, which gives students that go to college to become teachers some financial support while they're getting their education. And then after that, as long as they teach 5 years in our public schools. So that, and we have seen an increase in our teacher ed students all across our teacher colleges. We've passed maternity leave as well for teachers. But we just have to guarantee that we have a qualified teacher in every classroom. A qualified teacher. And to address the teacher shortages, quite frankly, we have dummied that down a little bit. And I don't know that that's the right direction to go. But here's the other thing. Until teachers feel supported and respected, we're going to continue to have a teacher shortage, and they're going to continue to drop out of the profession. Now, how do we address that? Like Mr. Burch said, it goes back to home, right? The parents have to support the teachers, and I think that support has to come all the way from the top. From our state superintendent, our state school board, our legislature, the governor, right on down to our local school boards, to our local administration. And so we have to address that to make sure that we're supporting our teachers to help with the teacher shortage. So, parental involvement and the teacher, our teacher shortage. Two things that we need to address. Thank you.
Okay, next question. The average person is facing rising inflation and is having a hard time making ends meet. What can the legislature do to address this problem?
For the last year or so, I've been chairman of the Republican Party of Pontotoc County. And had a lot to do with me getting into this spot I'm in tonight, because it was always saying somebody needs to do something, okay? And these guys know it's not easy, all right? I mean, to put yourself out there. But, and especially with some of the crazy things that I come up with. But one of the issues we're having in Oklahoma with rising inflation is not because Oklahoma's printing money. Y'all know how inflation works, all right? We've got a federal government that's out of control, okay? We've also got a 10th Amendment that says no, that says you can't keep giving all our money to foreign countries to fight a never-ending war. You can't keep funneling all our money to 750 military bases around the world, for what reason? To be the world's police. What I'm talking about isn't particularly impacting the person that can't pay their bills, yet it is, all right? Because they can't buy anything with their money. The Federal Reserve, the federal government, the unaudited federal government is taking advantage of the hardworking people of Oklahoma and Texas and wherever, okay? Here's the bottom line. Taxes are an expense to most people, unless you're in government, okay? So, first, I think we address the cause and stop printing money, okay? And reduce the inflation before we end up Venezuela or Cuba or whatever. Okay, we get out of the world police business and we focus on America. Okay, I've had several people say to me in the last few weeks, they don't know how they're going to pay their property taxes again, or they're still owing property taxes this year. And they're giving more money to these people that are crossing the border than my property taxes. You know, I say, that ain't right, okay? I mean, the hillbilly's gonna come out of me in a minute, but, you know, it's like, that's stupid. You know, we need to take care of our own, okay? And we have citizens in this country for a reason, and we're supposed to have borders for a reason. By the way, that border's been there since 1848, hadn't changed an inch, and nothing's been done about it. I'm talking about Texas and Mexico. So, one thing we do to address it is reduce the size of the government. The government does not need as much as it's taking, okay? You know, let's rein it in, okay? I'm not gonna get into alphabet agencies and all that, who we need to cut and who we need to not. You know, the bottom line is, the only conversation I've ever had with Kevin Stitt, I said, Governor, 50% of what that bureaucracy in the Beltway needs to come back to the states. He said, I agree with you 100%. I said, well, then get those other jokers in line, let's do something about it, you know? We've got to rein in what's being taken from us as citizens of Oklahoma. You know, I was in Sam's Club, I call it Sam's $100 Club because I can't get out of there for less than $100. So this was this was in Sherman, Texas the other day. And I bought $130, $40 worth of meat, and I had to double take on mine. See, I had nodding. It wasn't all groceries, but my taxes were $1.80. I still got the receipt, you know. I mean, there's no reason that we have to be taxed like we're taxed. But except to support a bunch of government agencies and a bunch of government that we may not necessarily need. Okay, there's nothing wrong with reining in government instead of just paying more all the time. That's all.
Thanks for that, and couldn't agree more. Make some good points. Just some basic things to help, Oklahomans fight inflation. The one thing we did do this past session, of course, is eliminate the 4.5% sales tax on groceries, which is the largest single sales tax in state history. We were proud to be a part of that. The House also took up some other tax measures that the Senate did not, and they had their reasons for that, and I totally respect those reasons as well. So we've tried to do some things there to cut our taxes. I think we need to reduce some of the regulations on our small businesses, and we've done a pretty good job of that, I think. We have some people moving into our states or into our state that's bringing in some small business, and so we've done some things to help that. We've cut the corporate tax rate as well. Of course, we all know that housing is just outrageous, and so we need to try to provide some more housing options for those that really need that. We have to help and encourage people to get back to work, which is a major problem here in our state, and so we have to do things to help encourage that. And as Mr. Burch said, there's economic drivers across the nation that influence our inflation, and sometimes it's tough for us on the state level to do what we need to do to try to help the citizens of Oklahoma. But I feel like those things that I said before, I think just trying to do some of that will help Oklahoma.
Okay, here's the third question. What do you think is the biggest opportunity and the biggest struggle that Oklahoma will face in the next 10 years?
think that Oklahoma has a real opportunity to become the most business-friendly state in this country, and I'll explain. Okay, I spent close to 40 years, to be honest, counting up all the dock work and stuff I did in college and everything, but in the transportation industry. And Oklahoma City is a key point in transportation, just like Dallas. Oklahoma City is much friendlier to traffic than Dallas, in case you haven't been down there lately. Okay, so it can take you hours to get across Dallas, depending on what time you're there. Even Oklahoma City at its worst, see, it's not that much time. So the reason I'm talking about this is, like Hobby Lobby distributes all over the country from one spot, Oklahoma City. I've seen thousands of their shipments. So, you know, and they don't have distribution centers in other parts of the country. They do it all right from Oklahoma City. There's my example of, yes, it can be done. Now, what's keeping us from bringing in all sorts of distribution, all sorts of manufacturing, all sorts, you know, we were talking just a little while ago about Frisco, Texas. When I was in high school, Frisco, Texas wasn't even half the size of Oklahoma. And if you've been down there lately, it's a couple 100,000, probably, I hadn't looked, but close. And, you know, there's business everywhere. There's, you know, why did it grow? Just because of Dallas? Or were they did they have a business-friendly environment? You know, I mean, you know, one of the downfalls of Dallas, Texas is it's not friendly. You know, if you don't get robbed there, or something else happen. I mean, it's just not a good place to be. But, so we make Oklahoma a place for businesses to come to, you know, and it'll happen. We get government out of business. It doesn't need to be involved in it. I know this thing with the windmills out there by Roth is just, and I know you guys have been involved in it and everything else, but, you know, where I struggle with it, nobody knows how it came up. Nobody knows who approved all this. Nobody knows where it came from. The buck doesn't stop anywhere. It just happened. Okay. How much is it going to do for Oklahoma? You know, all these questions that should have been answered. And the one question they wouldn't answer for me is what percentage of their revenue is tax money. I hate that, folks. I literally hate it. Because private business and government do not need to be in business together under any circumstances. That's my opinion, but I'm sticking to it. You know, what's the biggest struggle Oklahoma will face in the next 10 years? All right, besides a worthless dollar, which we've already talked about. All right, let's talk about this unmitigated immigration, okay? It's killing our country. It's going, you know, it's amazing that you can just have prop up bridge blockings all over the country just anytime somebody wants to do it, and nobody does anything. You know, we've been dodging that bullet in Oklahoma for the most part, but it's coming. You know, I mean, we're letting people in that we have no idea what they're going to do and who they are.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And, you know, that's not good for American citizens or citizens of Oklahoma or citizens of the Chickasaw or citizens of anywhere who are, you know, born and raised here, okay, or came in legally. You know, I mean, we've got to do something about that, and we've got to get our dollar under control before it's as worthless as Venezuela's dollar. You know, and believe me, we've seen several circumstances over history that if America's dollar goes down, the rest of the world goes down right along with it. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I don't want to sit here and lecture. I mean, I am a student of history, but we need to learn from it, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that, I think Oklahoma's got real challenges ahead without pushing back against the federal government. Okay, you know, you can't just hire your way out of trouble. Okay, you can't just tax your way out of trouble. Well, I mean, people are getting taxed to the gills now, you know, and because their dollar's not buying anything, but guess what? Their taxes haven't gone down at all. So at some point, there's a breaking point. Well, I'd like to be happier about that, but there's nothing happy about it. I still believe in the future of Oklahoma, like I was saying. You know, we can bring manufacturing back to Oklahoma. We can show the rest of the country how it's done. I assure you, the tribes, folks, you name one, basically the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, put stuff on trucks every day, all over the country. You know, I mean, they have businesses. They get stuff in here from all over the country. So there's ways for every group in Oklahoma to work together and make this state better than it is today.
I think one of the things that's going to be that's a good opportunity for Oklahoma is in the last census, we grew as the state population went up. And so we have people coming in to the state of Oklahoma, as I said a while ago. Many of those are coming in with small businesses because we are a pretty friendly pro-business state. And we've done some things within the last 6 years to help that. And so more people obviously are coming in that are legal. And so we need to capitalize on that opportunity. And so with that, I think also comes an obstacle. And that is to make sure our infrastructure is where it needs to be. As transportation chairman the last, 2.5 years, and I was vice chair for 3.5, I guess. We have done some things to take advantage of that, or take advantage of the, number one, federal dollars that came in through the ARPA funds, to help with that infrastructure, whether it's with our roads and bridges, and we've moved way up into, you know, we're now within the top 10 of having the least amount of bad bridges in our state. So we've done a good job with those, and so we have to take advantage of those funds to develop our infrastructure. And one of the things that we've done here in, I think it was 2022, the prep funds that we created, Cindy McCortney, and that is to help rural communities invest in infrastructure, in our industrial parks, make sure they have the water that needs to be there, the electricity that needs to be there in those industrial parks. And so those are great opportunities for us. And like Mr. Burch, I love Oklahoma. Been here almost now for, well, a week from today, it'll be 62 years. Other than 9 months in Lubbock, Texas, going to school out at Lubbock Christian, I've spent the rest of my time here. I love this county. I love Oklahoma. And so I always think our future is bright. And, you know, you're doing fine, Oklahoma's in our state song, but I want to be doing great. And that's what drives me to continue to serve you guys up at the state capitol.
All right, we reached the point for our closing statements. So, unless you have any questions.
Whatever you would like to do, if this is your deal.
Is there anyone who would like to ask a question? We have time.
I don't want to ask a question, but I would like to say something. Am I allowed?
I think we'll stick to questions. Sir, would you have the microphone?
I have two questions, if it's okay. You were just touching on infrastructure. What are y'all going to implement for both of y'all? As far as, like you said, rural communities, the small local towns. I live in small town, Rock, Oklahoma, okay? Our roads are terrible, our water system's terrible, our sewer system's terrible, sorry. And so, what is it that y'all can do to help these smaller communities?
Do you want to answer the second one too, while you got it?
I'll go ahead.
We only have one microphone.
Okay. And the second one is, what will you do to help enforce laws that are not followed in small local governments?
I mean, there's a pothole in Raw. There's also a couple businesses not running on the outside of town there, you know? I mean, Raw, I don't know the people that are running the town. I mean, I'll be honest, okay? But how do you encourage business to come to Raw, Oklahoma and inject some capital into the town? You know, I mean, I would start there. You know, if there's businesses that are closed and there's people have to drive to Ada or, you know, Ardmore or wherever to work, you know, I mean, how do you get business there, like, some manufacturing, some assembly, some distribution, I'm telling you, there's things that bring in a lot of jobs, okay? You got to sell that town. Potholes will be fixed. All right, and then the second question, say it again.
Enforce the laws that are on the books.
Are you talking specifically about just any law or?
From the local officials, council members, mayors.
You know, I mean, I don't want to jump into splitting hairs about who's running Raw, okay? I mean, because I don't know. But I'd say that's up to the community, and I know some of y'all, okay, to get together and make changes, you know? Get some more help. There's not that many people, you know what I'm saying? You can do it.
As far as the small town infrastructure is concerned, as I said a while ago, the prep funds that are available, there's grants that are available for our small towns, and so that would be something that we could look into, and I'd be happy to help you look into that, and how we can maybe funnel some of those funds down to Roth. You know, like Mr. Burch, I think as far as the local, you know, the local municipality, I'm a strong believer in local control. Let the local keep state government out of local business. That comes goes with school business. Let our local school boards make those local decisions. Let the local people, you know, like Mr. Burch said, let you guys band together to get some changes there. So I'm a big believer in local control when it comes to, you know, those type of problems. So thank you for the question.
All right.
I have a question.
Okay.
I don't need the microphone, they can hear me. How, Mr. Johns, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you, what idea do you have to get the parents involved that don't get involved? That aren't involved, that don't want to be involved, that they don't care?
Yeah, you know, I think
But
it's
you
just
know what, there should be more out there to make sure everyone knows what's happening and can be here and voice or listen or hear, and I know it's on the video, I understand what you just said to me, but I'm really
that you're here,
disappointed.
and this is exactly the kind of thing we want to help create more of a civic culture in Ada, to have more people come out for events like this one. So any ideas you have for spreading the word would certainly be welcome. It was on the front page of the.
Just to say one thing about what you were talking about, in my opinion, okay, because it is a common question that I've had. I was glad to help, okay, so that university, what changed? Well, you know, I mean, you've got to, I know the people that spent their careers in education care about kids. They didn't do it to get rich, okay? They didn't do it, you know, it's not about that. And we kind of have a common friend, you know, who was, you know, a real successful basketball coach in Bean. And I was, you know, we were talking about me being one of his first, in one of his first coaching class. You know, I guarantee you Coach Simpson didn't do it because he was going to get rich being a basketball coach. You know, he helped me a lot. You know, he taught me off some ledges, and I know he did it for thousands of kids probably. So that's, my hands are, you know, I have to applaud teachers. Okay, number one. Back, you know, do I need to hurry? I'm sorry, I kind of got.
You have 3 more minutes.
You can go ahead, go ahead with this closing statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was just addressing her question.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just feel like this culture, this world of, we don't need people coming into this country changing our culture. They need to come in here and assimilate to our culture. Okay? You're not going to go, I'm pretty sure you're not going to go to, you name a country, I don't care which one it is, and walk in class and tell them they're going to have to teach you, they're going to have to speak English to teach you. You know, I mean, you might get run off. Okay? It's just, you know, I mean, it's not going to happen. So, let's keep things in focus. Let's help the kids that need help. Let's teach the 3 R's, you know, and get all this. There are 2 sexes, folks. That's it. There's males and females. I grew up on a farm. I know it's the truth. All right. So, we're supposed to be kind of funny, but anyway, what I care about in government is, number one, get the corruption out of government, change the culture of government, okay? I'm not taking lobbyist money. I'm not taking any, nobody's donating to me other than I've had some help paying for just this, running this race. That's it, okay? No PAC money, no lobbyists. And if I could snap my finger, there wouldn't be lobbyists available to write bills for legislators. There wouldn't be lobbyists pushing windmill companies that are owned by some Spanish outfit that the money's going overseas. You know, the government does not need to be in the business of picking business, playing favorites.
Chinese farms?
You know, it's killing our country, okay? We need to start manufacturing here again. We need to start building Fords in Michigan and, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of things we could build right here in Oklahoma. But the way we get there, okay, is tell the rest of the world that they're not, you know, they're not feeding in this trough anymore, okay? We're going to take care of business at home. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I appreciate Mr. Johns, Representative Johns. Sunrise Rotary Club, and boy, they meet early, folks. I have been to one of their meetings. And, you know, I was in Kiwanis for a while in West Texas, and I ended up in Big Brothers Big Sisters. And if people don't get involved, then people hurt, you know, people get hurt. It's, you know, that was a tough situation to help some of those kids. And I feel like we've got to step up. Everybody that's here tonight is here for a reason. You know, whatever that reason is, we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Yes, thank you again for having us tonight. And Ms. Burch, again, thank you. I got to say thank you to my wife, Renee, who's here tonight, and Ms. Burch. God bless you as well. I know it's not easy on you either. So, but Renee has stuck with me here for 6 years in the state legislature. It kind of upended her world a little bit, and maybe a lot, I should say. But she's been patient with me, and so Renee, thank you for that. And being out of session now, I've interrupted her again because she gets used to me not being there Monday through Thursday. And now I'm there every day. And so I've disrupted her once again. She gets in a good routine, and about the time she gets that figured out, I've disrupted. But thank you very much. Look, I have really, it's just been a pleasure and an honor to serve as state representative. That seed was planted in my mind way back in high school by my dad. And wow, sorry. But he taught me Oklahoma history, civics, U.S. history, and then as an elective, although I don't know that it was an elective for me as a senior, I took government. And like I said, I don't think it was an elective for me. I think it was just understood, hey, you're going to take government. And so that's what I did. And fell in love with the Constitution, fell in love with the idea of representative government. And at that time, I thought, it would be pretty cool to represent the state of Oklahoma in Washington, D.C. I have since come to my senses. That is not where I'm going. That is not where I want to be. I want to stay right here in the great state of Oklahoma. And it has just been a pleasure serving the constituents. And that's the most favorite thing. When people call with a problem, address that problem, and try to help all I can. Sometimes I don't get answers for them. Other times I do. But it's always a pleasure to get to know them, to try to work and find an answer to their question or find a solution to their problem. Thank you again for being here tonight. It shows that you're engaged. It shows that how important this is to you. And so I appreciate all of you tonight for being here.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take just a couple minutes to reset, and we'll go again with our Senate candidates in just about 3 minutes. So thanks again. Let's thank our candidates once again.
All right, thank you very much. I really don't, it's so weird being born and raised here, been here all my life, so kind of introducing myself seems weird, but I'll start just to tell a little bit of the story of how I ended up being the guy who's standing here today. Again, born and raised, born at the old Valley View, and then been here all my life. I did go away for college longer than Ronny did, or Representative John, sorry, Representative Coach. Coach is the best title, I think, for you. But went away to college and got back here as fast as I could. So the reason I'm standing here today, I'm not, was never really even into politics that much. That wasn't my thing. I was a pastor, became a hospice chaplain, ended up opening my own hospice company here in Ada because I wanted to come home and take care of my people. And so that's really what got us back to Ada. And then I joined the Chamber of Commerce because that's what you do when you're starting a small business. Somehow, I think because nobody else, I think they had a meeting I didn't show up to, so they said that I'd be the next chairman. And so become the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce at a moment when the business community in the city of Ada didn't really see eye to eye on some things. And in that moment, a few of us were asked to step up and run for city council, so I ran for city council. Got on the city council, my fellow council members elected me mayor a couple of times, did that, and then Susan Paddock, who was the person who had this seat before me, was term limited, and people asked me to run. I told them no for about 2 years. I made the mistake once of saying I'll pray about it. Ashley and I, my wife Ashley's here on the second row, we prayed about it. I prayed really hard that God would tell us no, and I just continued to pray for God to tell us no until she finally said, hey, God's not going to tell us no. It's time for us to go. This is what we're supposed to do. And so ran for state senate, not because it was my dream job, but because it was something that I really, truly tried to avoid and couldn't. So I've been in the Senate for 8 years now. If you guys choose to re-elect me here in 2 weeks, then I'll finish 12 years, which is the term limit in the state of Oklahoma. Just like with the Chamber of Commerce, just like with the City Council, my peers have selected me to be the next president of the Senate. So I'll be the president pro tem of the Senate for at least the next 2 years, probably the next 4 years, assuming that I get re-elected here. We've never had a president pro tem come from Senate District 13, so it'll be a first step ever for us and for our area. And so that's who I am. That's kind of how I get here today. And then I think we can hop into questions and then kind of just go from there. I'd much rather answer questions than blather on about myself for sure. So.
Okay, we have the same questions as with the House candidates. So the first is about public education. And what are the biggest issues facing public education and what should we do to face them?
Thank you. And I do have a sheet where I scribbled down a few notes just in case I had brain freeze on these. And I want to show everyone because my answers are the exact same as Representative John's, but in a flip-flop order. So that's the only difference, and I think it's just because I've listened to him talk to education, and one of the great benefits that I've had over the last 6 years is having Representative Johns at the Capitol with me. He fills in a lot of my weaknesses. And education is one of those things that he spent his entire career in education. I didn't. And so being able to pick his brain and to see how he thinks, and so it's somewhat unsurprising to me that we ended up with the same answers. But number one for me is the teacher shortage. If we don't, and it's not just warm bodies. We need school buildings full of good teachers. And unfortunately, we don't have that right now. And we've got to figure out how to fix that, and it's not an easy problem to fix. A big part of it's respect. A big part of it is, we've set up, we'll help pay for your college if you'll become a teacher. I mean, we're doing everything that we can to encourage that. But we as a society have to get back to encouraging that also. And we've gotten away from it. And I know that I'm guilty. I know my middle child's here. I've got, in a few months, I'm going to have 3 kids in college and an empty nest, and that's going to be an interesting time in my life. But I know for all 3 of them, none of them felt called to become a teacher, and I was a little bit thankful for that, to be really honest with you. Because right now, it's a really, really hard way to make a living and to raise a family. You don't have the respect that they used to have. Mr. Burch, the rule at my house was if you get in trouble at school, you get in trouble at home. And I tested the rule a few times, and it held true. I got the paddle at school, I got the belt at home. That's just how I was raised, but that's not how it is anymore. You hear story after story after story from teachers who say, hey, I'm scared of the kids because their parents are going to come after me. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get in trouble. They're going to put me on social media. All of those things. And we've gotten into a place where the school is scared of the kids, and that's a bad place to be. But that's where we are, and we've got to figure that out. I don't have a magic bullet on it. But we've got to figure out how to get some really good teachers back in the classroom. And we've, I think, done the things government can do. Unfortunately, the real solutions to those things are going to be society and what society can do. So number 2, for me, and again, Representative John's talked about this, and this is the most important, and he talked about parents. I'll go further and say kids need 2 parents. You can read a whole lot of research, you can read a whole lot of studies, that a house with two parents in it, the kids, their ability to succeed goes through the roof. And, I mean, it's just, you can't deny the data, that kids that grow up with parents that love them and want to, and are willing to sacrifice and take care of them, are much more likely to succeed than those other kids. I mean, not only is it data, it's just common sense. And so again, government can't fix that. Government doesn't fix that. That's a broken part of our society. And we as a society are gonna have to figure out that we wanna fix that, and then we gotta figure out how to fix it. But that's not something that the state government, the federal government, the city council, the county commissioners, we can't fix that. Okay, I'm a big fan of small government. I'm a big fan of limited government. I can promise you, we don't need government getting in the middle of parents and kids. So I'm never gonna be an advocate for that. So those are the two things for me, exactly what they were for everything, John's. We've gotta get good teachers in the classroom, and we gotta get back to parents loving their kids and raising their kids right. We do those things, and a whole lot of our society's problems gonna fix themselves.
All right, we're gonna go back to the opening statement for our challenger, Jonathan Wingard.
Hello, sorry I'm running a little bit late, I had a prior engagement, so I apologize for that. But I'm Jonathan Wingard, as she said. This is my first time running for office. I am a retired veteran of the Oklahoma National Guard with 2 deployments. I spent nearly 20 years in the military, it's just part of who I am. Servant leadership, that's a big thing for me, that's a big thing to me. I think it's very important, for any elected representative to live their life that way. I own a small business here in Ada, have 3 South Processing, it's a custom meat processing plant, and I'm a family man. The missus, she joined me tonight. Our son's not here. He's 2 years old, he would take over the show. Those of you that have kids, y'all know how much energy they have. I don't know how they do it, to be honest. I miss it. But I chose to do this because I feel like we need good leadership, we need solid leadership, and we need leadership that understand this seat belongs to the district. This seat does not belong to the sitting senator, right? It's your seat, it's not my seat. I'm asking you to put me up there for you. I'm asking for me to represent you. So everything I do is a reflection of the district. And I take this as we're the voice for the people, and to what we are supposed to. We're supposed to vote the way that we are supposed to. We are supposed to represent the district and represent the state, and not represent our personal values and beliefs in the sense that that's how we lead and that's how we live. Now, as a conservative, as a Christian, my Christian values, my conservative values is very important, and I do believe that it's very important as a leader. But you also have to understand that you represent everybody, not just one person. So when I go into that, that's how I look at that. That's what I believe is very, very important. I'm going to keep my opening statement fairly short. Once this is over, I'll stick around and visit with everybody that I can. I love meeting people. I love to get to know people, because I will say one thing I've heard universally is we don't see them once we elect them. And I think that's very important. I think it's very important that your leadership is there, that your representatives are there. Because if they're not part of the district, if they're not coming around, they're not talking to you, how do they know what your problems are? And how do they know how to best represent you? If they don't listen to you and they're not there, then they're not representing you. So I do believe that is something very important, and that is something that I will do, is be part of the district, go to events, hold forums, town hall meetings, and things like that. So, with that, that's all I have for an opening statement.
We're gonna go right back to you, Mr. Wingard, because the next question is about public education. What are the biggest issues facing public education in Oklahoma, and what should we do to face them?
So what I see in public education is, I feel like too many kids are coming out of school and they're not prepared for the real world. There's too many kids that don't know how to read or write. They're not good at math, they're not good at sciences, and that's very important. That is our next generation of leaders. You know, like I tell people, there's someone sitting in school right now that is going to be the governor, or a representative, or maybe your doctor, or your lawyer. And are they coming out, are they being educated in a way that you would want them to represent you? Far too often I'm seeing kids nowadays, they just seem to get passed along. And this no child left behind idea, I don't want any child left behind, but we don't need to move them forward simply because we don't want to see them stall. You know, we are required to fund education. That is codified by law in the state of Oklahoma. We are required to fund public education. And I don't think that we need to stop. But I also believe that we need to look at how we spend that money. Don't just throw more money onto it. We need to understand where is that money going and how can we best utilize that money to put it in the classroom to be able to educate children. And we need to get back to basic education. I feel like when we took things like shop class out, home ec out, those type of classes, those classes had a lot of value.
Yeah.
When I was in school, I remember, you know, I was in ag. So I did 4 years of ag mechanics, learned how to weld. There are a lot of kids that learned how to do construction stuff. There are a lot of other kids that did home ec, learned how to do something as simple as bake and sew and do their own laundry. There's a lot of people who don't know how to do that nowadays. And I feel like we've lost that. We lost some of that core values. Common Core math, I used to be good at math. I've seen some of this Common Core stuff. I couldn't do it. I'll tell you right now, I couldn't do it. And I placed in scholastic meets in physics and science. So I had an understanding of math, and I couldn't do Common Core math. How do we expect kids to learn that and be able to apply that? I don't see a good way of applying that in the real world, the stuff that I saw. I don't see it. We need to get back to basic education, teaching people how to read, write, do math, science. We need to be able to teach kids how to be productive members of society. We need to teach kids how to actually interact in society. How many kids nowadays do y'all see that their entire life's online? All their friends are online. Everything's online. And I'm not, you know, I know that there are real friendships developed. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But these kids don't know how to go out in public and interact face to face with another person. They lose that. Things like that need to be taught in school. But parents also need to have the right to make a choice. If you're in a district where it's not the best school system, you should be allowed to put your kids in a different school system, one that best suits them. Even a good school system may not be a good fit for your child. The way your child learns, the way that school teaches, they may both be great, but that doesn't mean they're a good fit together, right? I've seen it in my own family. My nephew, he switched schools and his grades they shot up. He wasn't dumb, and he wasn't in a bad school, but they just didn't work together. Parents need to have that right. If parents want to homeschool, if parents want to use private school, they need to have that right. And because that's what it comes down to. Parents, that is your child, that is your future. You need to have the right and the say and the control of what the education system is, because you're responsible for them, at least until they turn 18. And anymore, it's about 30 or 40, it seems like, right? But no, parents need to have the right, and parents need to be involved. And I will say this too, I do believe, if you look at things like school board, there are too few votes for school board members. That means nobody's paying attention. And even if, and I've talked to some people that they don't have kids, and maybe their kids already graduated, and I do go back to this thing too, those kids are the future of Oklahoma. Those kids are the future of the United States, and those kids need a good education. Even if you no longer have kids in school, it is vital for you to be involved, it's vital for you to understand, and it's vital for you to pay attention to what's going on, because it may affect you in a way you don't know. Maybe that senior in 6 years from now is going to be your doctor in the ER when you might be having a heart attack. Do you want them to know what they're doing? Or do you want them to have had an education that just sends them through? I look at that and I think about that stuff because it's very important for us, everybody, to be involved. Because it matters. It matters a lot more than people think about, and people realize.
Okay, second question. The average person is facing rising inflation and is having a hard time making ends meet. What can the legislature do to address this problem?
We can get your paper scissors. He's on a roll, let him keep going.
I think from a standpoint from the state capital, the first thing we could do would be to lower state income tax.
Yes.
We did get the food tax, that helps, and I would love to have seen the, my mind's going blank, I apologize, the vehicle, right? I would love to have seen that they would have included the excise tax in that tax reduction on the trade-in. That would have helped a lot too, especially with the prices of new vehicles. So, to me, that's the first thing, and that's the big thing, is lower the tax burden on Oklahoma. So, I'm keeping it short and simple on that. But that's the main thing I see that we can do from a legislature standpoint, is lower taxes and cut spending so that we don't need to have higher taxes again in the future.
Thank you. So absolutely, the runaway inflation, first off, it's the federal government's caused this, is Bidenomics at its best. It's caused the inflation, pumping billions of dollars into the economy. Now, some of that is in response to COVID, and some of it maybe even needed to happen. But then we just kept going and kept going, and we're going to continue to see it. It's not going to get better. There are a lot of those dollars. In fact, most of those dollars have not even been spent yet. In fact, there's a big project right here at East Central University that's being funded with those dollars that we're breaking ground a couple weeks.
3 weeks from today.
3 weeks from today. There's a huge project in Sulphur, which is a big water line project in Sulphur. And those projects haven't started using, those haven't started. So we're going to continue to spend that money, and I think we're going to continue to struggle with inflation for a long time. There's not a lot that the state can do when the federal government wants to spend out of control. We came into session, second week of session this year, because people are struggling, because it's hard. I mean, you go to the grocery store, you know what's happening, you know how hard it is. And so we eliminated the state tax on groceries. It is the biggest tax cut in the history of the state of Oklahoma. We did that the second week of February. It will go into effect soon. It takes a while for those laws to go into effect, but you're about to see that. You're going to see your grocery bill go down by 4.5%. So that was an immediate reaction as fast as we could. We didn't wait to the end of session. Basically, we just threw our chips on the table, said we're going to do the biggest tax cut that the state's ever seen, and we're going to do it now, and then we're going to have to figure out the budget later. And if you all watched, There was a Donnybrook on the budget this year, and we stayed until the very last day, or next to the last day. And a lot of that was because we had taken a whole lot of money off the table up front, and then we had to figure out in the back end how we were gonna handle it, but we felt like it was important to do that. So that's, on inflation, unfortunately, the cause of inflation, is Washington DC, and the solution definitely is not at the state capitol. But we did what we could to try to help, the people of Oklahoma be able to bear this burden, just a little bit better. And so you're gonna see that kick in, and I wish I knew off the top of my head the date of it. It's sometime in August, I believe, that you're gonna see a 4.5% cut on your grocery bill. And, the guy with a family of 5, that's a big deal, for sure. So that's what we've done. I wish we could do more. At the same time, one of the greatest things in the state of Oklahoma is we balance the budget every year. Which is why it was a struggle this year. But we're not gonna spend more than we bring in. We never will. It's one of the great parts of our Constitution. It's not an option. It shouldn't be an option in Washington DC either. And so that's where we are right now. And I think we've got some more hard years ahead of inflation, unfortunately. And I wish I had better news, but kind of, like I said at the start, I never was a politician, so I'm not good enough to lie to you. I think we're gonna see a little more time of high inflation, and we're gonna continue to struggle for a little while, and we're gonna have to figure out how to get through it together.
Okay, third and final question. What do you think is the biggest opportunity and the biggest struggle that Oklahoma will face in the next 10 years?
Well, he kind of alluded to it just now. Federal government. I do think that that's a big issue. The things they're doing, the policies that they're putting in place, they're encroaching on states' rights, and they're encroaching on states' freedoms. And far too often I'm seeing the states cower down to that, because what I see and what I've seen in the past is it's the money. When the federal government starts offering the money to the states take it. And then the states get dependent on it. And then the states come to need it and require it. Well, then once the federal government's feeding them, then they put strings attached to that, right? You gotta do this, or you gotta do that. And then next thing you know, things like inflation happen. And yes, he is absolutely right. This inflation was caused by what the federal government did, not by what the state government did. And that will affect us. But we can pass laws that will help protect the state and keep the state sovereign and keep the federal government out as much as we can. And I also believe if we can get to where we take less and less federal money, and we become less dependent on the federal government and operate solely as a state, the way the Constitution was intended, then we should have fewer issues, right? And I'd love to see all the states do that and take the power away from the federal government. But we're not here for that tonight. We're not here to fix the federal government. We're here to do what we can for the state. So that's one thing I see. That's the biggest thing I see. I would love to see the state continue to grow and grow the economy, expand, get more business in. We're very heavy in agriculture. We're very heavy in oil and gas. And I don't want to see that go away. I think it's very good. It's good for the state. But it also is good to diversify in the economy. Because the downturns in the oil field, and anybody that's worked in the oil field knows it's going to happen. It will happen again at some point. When? We don't know. Next year, 10 years from now, who knows? But it does happen. We know that. The same with the agricultural industry. What we saw a couple of years ago with the drought, and how many people sold out and couldn't afford to feed their animals. It affected me personally, my business, and it still continues to affect it because the price of cattle is now shot up to the point that People are no longer getting things butchered because it doesn't make financial sense. But on the flip side of it, price of everything's gone up, including the price of food. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. But it just comes down to right now, Oklahomans are struggling day to day. And in the next 10 years, we don't want to continue to do that, right? So the best way to do that, diversify the economy, bring in more businesses, bring in bigger businesses, help the small businesses. The number of mom and pop shops in any town far outweigh your big corporations. And let's continue to support them because they are great employers in the community. And most of them treat their employees well.
Oklahoma, and I would love to get to be a part of that. It's really why I'm here tonight. So.
Okay, I think, yeah, I think we're on. Okay, we're going to closing statements. I think the microphone, and we are all getting tired, so.
He wanted to make sure he had the last word.
That's it. That's it.
All right, closing statements, please.
Okay, so, I guess I have to talk a little louder now, right? Since, like I said, someone broke the microphone. You know, that's what these guys do. They just mess everything up, apparently. No, you know, when it comes down to this, what you have